The night is still, and you are here, immersed in silence. There is no rush. The day is over, and now you can let your thoughts soften, like the dim glow of a lantern at the end of the evening. Greetings, friends. In this space, you are invited into a world that seems distant yet strangely close. An old city resting by the water, where the air carries the mingled aromas of bread from the oven, spices from the market, and the faint smoke of lamps lit one after another. This is a place of slow rhythms, where life unfolds not in hasty leaps, but in measured steps. This is Constantinople, the great city of the Ottoman world. A city that stretched across 2 continents, where domes and minarets caught the first blush of dawn, and narrow streets curved like threads in a woven carpet. Its pace was not so different from ours. People worked, rested, and prepared for the day ahead. But the details, the sights, the sounds, were dressed in another time, another century. These were the silent guardians of everyday life, those who gave structure to mornings, days, and nights. Without them, the city could not eat or find its way in the dark. Their work was ordinary, but in this mundaneness there was a steady rhythm, the heartbeat of the city itself. And so tonight we will not follow emperors or march through armies. Instead, we will walk slowly, almost dreamlike, through a day in the life of Constantinople, as seen through the hands of its humble guardians, a butcher, a baker, and a lamplighter. Allow yourself to wander here without expectations. Each moment will come in its own time. You do not need to watch it with rapt attention. It is enough to listen, to go with the flow, to let the words carry you, as if you were walking leisurely through narrow streets with no purpose but the smooth passage of time. Perhaps as the butcher sharpens his knife, you will hear the crunch of steel. Perhaps as the baker sprinkles flour on his table, you will see a soft cloud rise into the air. Perhaps as the lamplighter pauses before each pillar, you will feel the silence of twilight descend. These are brief moments, but they are enough. And as we move deeper into this city, remember that you can return whenever you wish. The doors of history are always open, waiting for your steps. Before we begin, let the thought settle. You are part of this quiet gathering. And if you wish for more journeys like this, gentle, unhurried, and filled with the stillness of the past, do not forget to subscribe, to like, and to share in the comments. In doing so, you help keep the lamps of these stories alight, so they may continue to glow softly, night after night. Now, rest easy. The butcher sharpens his blade, the baker kneads the dough, the lamplighter waits for dusk. The day in Constantinople is ready to unfold. Before the call to prayer brushes against the low-hung clouds, and before the first oil lamp is extinguished by a sleepy hand, the city lies in silence. Constantinople sleeps, cradled between the Bosphorus and the Sea of Marmara, wrapped in the folds of night. The old stones of the city walls still hold the day's warmth beneath their surface, and the cobbled streets glisten faintly, slick with the dew of early morning. In the alleys of Fatih, cats curl between baskets of unbaked bread. A breeze from the sea rustles through the latticework of wooden shutters, whispering softly across tiled roofs and painted eaves. The silence is nearly complete. Only the gentle creak of a fishing boat in the Golden Horn, and the distant splash of a gull shifting its wings in sleep. A lamplighter's feet pad quietly on a stone road. He walks with care, carrying his long iron pole with a small flame protected at its tip. His job is nearly finished. He extinguishes each oil lamp in turn, the small hissing sigh of flame releasing its grip on the dark. The world slowly begins to fade from his candlelit route into the gray-blue of pre-dawn. Above, a minaret cuts the pale sky like a needle threading the heavens. A single figure stands in the balcony, hands at his sides, face to the east. The sound arrives gently, like a breeze across silk. Allahu Akbar. The call to prayer unfolds in slow waves. It echoes through the hills of the city, draping itself across tiled domes and worn wooden eaves. Pigeons ruffle their feathers. The waters of the Bosphorus catch the first streak of silver light. A vendor, half awake in a cart beneath a fig tree, blinks slowly and stirs. Inside one of the old timber houses of Balat, an old baker opens his eyes. His wife is still asleep beside him, her hair tucked beneath a linen wrap. He doesn't rush. His knees creak as he sits. His feet find the woolen slippers placed precisely beneath the bed frame. He lights a small oil lamp, not bright enough to banish the shadows, just enough to see the way to his water basin. He washes, slowly, as if the act of rinsing hands and face is a form of prayer. With a soft towel, he dries each finger separately, carefully, precisely. In every quarter of the city, Galata, Üsküdar, Eyüp, the quiet paths near the Hippodrome, similar acts are taking place. Quiet gestures, small lives unfolding. This is Constantinople before the sun, and it is very still. In the small bakery nestled between two stone houses in the Arnavutköy district, the baker moves slowly but surely. His oven is an old thing, built of brick and plaster, blackened by decades of use. It sleeps like a beast during the night. But now, he rouses it with care. He takes dry olive branches bundled in twine and feeds them gently to the embers beneath the oven floor. It crackles in response, timidly at first, then with more confidence as flames take hold. The warmth spreads through the low-ceilinged room. Outside, mist still clings to the cobbles, and the sky remains gray. But inside the bakery, it is bright, gold-tinged, with a scent of old yeast and burning wood. The baker kneads his dough in silence. The rhythm is slow, deliberate, push and fold, push and fold. He hums faintly under his breath, not a melody, but a steady, toneless chant. The dough is soft and alive, its surface breathing under his hands. Behind him, a boy, the apprentice, watches with heavy eyes, leaning slightly against the wall. He's not yet awake, not fully. The baker doesn't speak. He simply hands the boy a lump of dough and waits. Together, side by side, they shape it into the long spirals of simit bread. Outside, the first customers are just shapes in the mist. A widow in a black cloak, a porter already weary from the docks, a young girl sent by her grandmother, scarf tight beneath her chin. They each receive their round loaf wrapped in paper. A soft teşekkür ederim murmured into the air. No one speaks loudly. The city is not ready for loudness yet. One customer brings a copper coin and a folded note. The baker reads it slowly. An order for sesame rings to be sent to the mosque school for the midday meal. He nods and folds it again. Steam coils from the bread as it emerges from the oven, golden and crisp. The scent floats into the street. The lamplighter walks past and breathes in deeply. He offers a small bow to the baker as he walks by, his pole now tucked under one arm, its tip cooled and blackened. Up the road, a cat jumps down from a windowsill and licks at the crumbs that have fallen in the dust. The butcher's stall is older than the butcher himself. A corner shop at the edge of the marketplace near the spice bazaar, its archway is worn smooth by generations of hands. Inside, the air is colder. The sun hasn't yet risen high enough to warm the flagstones. A faint metallic scent hangs in the stillness. Not unpleasant, just sharp, clean, and earthy. The butcher arrives before anyone else, keys in hand. He unlocks the creaking shutters, folds them outward, and props them with worn iron hooks. Light creeps in slowly, reluctant, pale. He wears a leather apron that is darkened with time. In his hands is a cleaver, not gleaming or menacing, just familiar. It fits his grip like an old friend. He begins by cleaning the marble slab. Water, a brush, a quiet sigh. Everything must be just so. A delivery arrives. 2 sheep, skinned, already prepared by the morning slaughterhouse. They hang from a wooden beam, their limbs motionless, their meat fresh and pink. The butcher lifts one gently and brings it inside. The hook creaks. The scales are tested with a small iron weight. Soon, the market stirs. Not loud yet. The grocers begin stacking oranges into careful pyramids. The fishmongers unwrap their catches, still silvery and wet. Children begin sweeping the stones of the walkway with dry brooms. Customers arrive one by one. A woman with a basket and a scarf pulled over her mouth. An old man buying liver for his cat. A kitchen boy from a merchant's house. The butcher greets each with the same quiet voice. He slices, wraps in parchment, nods. One customer asks for marrow bones for soup. The butcher chooses 2, the centers still glistening, the edges neatly cut. He offers them into the woman's linen sack with care. Outside, the smell of roasted coffee begins to drift from a nearby stall. A boy sells mint wrapped in bundles with twine. And in the butcher's corner, the sun finally reaches the hanging meat, lighting it softly in gold. His shift ends as the city awakens. The lamplighter began before midnight, when the streets were emptied of vendors and the ferry boats rocked like sleeping animals along the harbor. He lit each lamp by hand, first in Beolu, then down toward Karakoy, across the Galata Bridge, his steps echoing in silence. Now, with dawn breaking across the rooftops, he returns in reverse. One by one, the flames he placed with such care are gently retired. Each lamp has its own sound, the sigh of extinguished oil, the creak of the metal hinge, the whisper of soot falling to glass. He walks slowly, not out of weariness, but out of habit. The city is brighter now, though not yet noisy. Merchants still set their stalls. The domes of the mosques reflect pink light from the east. He pauses at a fountain, one of the old sables built into a mosque wall. He cups water in his hand and drinks, then splashes his face. The coolness is welcome. A girl on her way to the bakery greets him shyly. He nods. At a corner, he pauses. A cat, long and lean, sits on the lid of a barrel and watches him. He offers a finger. The cat sniffs it, then walks away with tail high. He continues down a narrow street of crooked houses. Laundry hangs between buildings, unmoved by wind. A boy sings to himself as he pulls water from a bucket. The lamplighter listens without expression. By the time he reaches the final lamp, the one nearest the old hammam, the city has fully awoken. He lifts his pole, snuffs the flame, and lets the lamp cool in silence. He leans for a moment on his pole and watches as Constantinople, in all its morning gentleness, quietly breathes into the day. As the morning settles into its full weight, with the shadows shortening and the rooftops glowing with warmth, the copper quarter stirs to its rhythm, soft, metallic, and deliberate. In a workshop down the hill from Suleymaniye Mosque, nestled between 2 narrow alleys that carry the scent of roasting chestnuts and distant spice, A coppersmith works alone. The door is open. No bell hangs above it, only a faint tinkling sound, almost like wind chimes, from the pots suspended outside, gently clinking in the breeze. The man inside wears a faded tunic and a woolen cap pushed back on his head. He does not rush. A pot sits on his lap, a deep, wide vessel with a rounded belly. His hammer is small, worn smooth from years of use. He taps gently, tap, tap, pause, tap, tap, tap. The rhythm is thoughtful, like punctuation in an old letter. The light inside is dim, filtered through linen draped over the windows to keep the glare from bouncing off the metal. The walls are lined with shelves that hold kettles, trays, water pitchers, and bowls, some newly polished, others dark with age. Each item waits patiently for its next task or owner. Outside, the street sounds are muffled. No shouting here. The copper quarter is respectful, almost devotional in its work. An apprentice sweeps metal shavings into a neat pile, then folds them into a linen cloth to be melted and reused. Nothing is wasted. The coppersmith stops his hammering and turns the pot slowly in his hands, inspecting its curve. He lifts a brush, dips it into a paste of ash and lemon, and begins to clean its surface in slow, circular motions. The copper begins to glow faintly, like the last light before dusk. A customer enters, an old woman with a bundle. She unwraps a broken pitcher from coarse linen. Its spout is cracked. Without words, the man takes it, holds it to the light, and nods. Repairs will be made, not today, but perhaps tomorrow. Everything in time. As she leaves, he returns to his seat, picks up his hammer again, and the gentle tapping resumes. By mid-morning, the courtyards of the mosques are filled with a kind of stillness that is not empty, but thoughtful. At the courtyard of the Yeni Kami, the new mosque, pigeons gather in clusters near the water fountains. They coo and flutter, ruffling feathers and bathing in the cool stone basins. Their movements are slow and aimless, like idle thoughts on a warm day. A scholar sits beneath the shade of a fig tree near the edge of the garden. His book rests open on his lap, though his eyes are not on the page. He watches the light shift across the flagstones. Occasionally, he turns a page, gently, with the tip of one finger. Children from the nearby school sit cross-legged in a circle, reciting quietly to one another, each waiting their turn. Their teacher, a thin man with ink-stained fingers, watches without interrupting. A boy mispronounces a word. Another softly corrects him, and they go on. The imam passes through the cloister walk, his robes brushing the floor. He pauses by a column where a vine has begun to climb and gently adjusts its path so it does not twist the lattice window. He smiles at it, as if to encourage it. There is a small sound of sweeping. The caretaker of the mosque moves methodically through the courtyard with a straw broom. He sweeps not out of necessity, but devotion. The leaves are few, but the act, repeated every day, is a form of prayer. A tea vendor sets down a tray of glasses on a wooden bench near the garden wall. The glasses fog slightly in the warmth. A scent of mint and lemon balm rises gently into the air. In the ablution area, the taps trickle softly. A man washes his feet, one at a time, as slowly as if he were combing his thoughts. He dries them with care, then sits on the bench and leans back, closing his eyes. Above it all, the call to prayer has passed. The next will not come for some hours. In this space between duties, between sun and shadow, the mosque breathes calmly. A place of refuge, not from the world, but within it, hidden behind a worn wooden door carved with a crescent, The public bathhouse sleeps in warmth and stone. The attendant, a man of few words, sits near the entrance with a ledger open on his lap. It is not a book of names, only simple marks, lines, dots, and curves that mean something only to him. He nods at each visitor, offering slippers, a linen wrap, and a thin smile. Inside, the air is thick with steam and the scent of olive soap. Light filters in from small holes in the domed ceiling, like stars pierced into stone. The light dances on the marble floors and the surfaces of the pools. A man lies stretched on warm stone, his eyes closed, arms resting at his sides. His breathing is slow. Another man sits nearby with a towel over his shoulders, pouring water from a copper bowl over his hands. The sound is quiet and rhythmical. The masseur, a large man with broad shoulders, works with patience. He does not speak. His hands press, stretch, and knead slowly, with the care of someone who has done this thousands of times. The man beneath him does not resist. He sighs gently, like a bellows releasing air. In a smaller room, a mother bathes her young son. She scrubs behind his ears while humming a melody older than she is. He wriggles, then giggles, but the sound is swallowed by the thick steam. She pours warm water over his head with a slow hand. His lashes flutter. He leans against her and breathes in the scented air. The bathhouse is not busy today. Only a few quiet guests, each wrapped in their own cocoon of warmth and silence. The echo of water on marble, the low murmur of soap and breath. Outside, the world continues. Vendors call, ships dock, children play in dust. But in here, time is slower, softer. There is nothing to do but rest, cleanse, and begin again. When a guest leaves, stepping out into the brightness of the street, they blink against the sun. Their footsteps are lighter. Their robe smells faintly of lemon. And inside the hammam, the steam continues to rise. At the edge of the bazaar, where the shadows stretch longest across the stones, a spice seller arranges his table with ritual care. He is old, perhaps 70, and his fingers move with the slowness of memory. He does not rush. His goods are not new. They are ancient in origin, gathered from the corners of empires. Cardamom, saffron, clove, sumac, threads of dried rose, fragments of cinnamon bark. He opens each container with reverence, letting the scent rise. The table is low, covered in a clean cloth. On it sit small brass bowls filled with color: orange, gold, deep crimson, ochre. Tiny wooden scoops rest beside each one. There is no need for signs. The regular customers know what they need. He does not call out like other vendors. He waits. A young man approaches, carrying a list scribbled on parchment. He needs pepper, coriander, ground ginger. The spice seller nods and begins his work. He does not scoop quickly. Each motion is exact, measured. The powders fall like dust into linen bags, which he ties with black thread. An older woman arrives with a small jar, which she opens. He sniffs and smiles faintly. "Turmeric," he says. She nods. He selects a fresh root, dried and earthy, and grates a sliver for her to smell. Her eyes close in approval. Children gather at the edge of the stall, drawn by the color. One points at a mound of golden powder. The spice seller picks up a pinch and lets the child smell it. He coughs and giggles. The old man chuckles silently. By noon, the market is louder, but the spice seller's corner remains hushed. A gentle breeze stirs the piles of powder. Rose petals drift like confetti across the cloth. He pauses, picks up a date from his pocket, chews slowly, sips warm water from a brass cup. and the sun slides gently across his spices, lighting them like jewels in a quiet treasury. By mid-afternoon, the light over the Golden Horn turns to brass. Down by the shoreline, the water glistens gently. No longer the glassy silver of morning, but a warmer hue like a worn coin left in the sun. Small fishing boats bob rhythmically, tied to wooden docks that creak softly with every swell. A boatman, sitting cross-legged on a plank, is mending a net. The strands are thin and tangled, but he works without frustration. He moves the needle slowly, threading it through loop after loop, pulling the line tight with a careful tug. His fingers are dark from salt, his palms calloused from rope. But his eyes are soft, following a gull as it arcs lazily overhead. The scent of fish is faint now. The morning catch has long since gone, hauled away in baskets by boys with sunburned cheeks and bare feet. Only a few buckets remain, resting in the shade of a stone wall, half filled with water and the occasional flick of a silver tail. Nearby, two men sit on the edge of the dock, playing a game with stones on a wooden board. They speak infrequently, and when they do, their voices are barely louder than the lapping of the tide. One of them laughs gently after a move. The other shrugs. Further along the quay, a family eats lunch beneath a fig tree. Flatbread, cheese, pickled olives, and thin slices of dried fruit. The youngest child sleeps in his mother's lap. A scarf flutters around her shoulders. She smooths his hair with absent-minded care. The ferries come and go without ceremony. Low wooden boats that glide between the city's banks. Their captains steer with long poles, leaning into each movement. Passengers ride without haste, sitting on benches with heads turned toward the hills. A boy on one ferry leans over the edge, fingers trailing in the wake. The water is cool. A moment passes. The ferry moves on. At the far end of the dock, an old man casts a single line into the current. He does not expect a catch. He watches the ripples instead. His eyes blink slowly. His breath is steady. As the sun continues its quiet descent, the boats remain, rocking gently, sighing against their ropes. And Constantinople listens. Tucked between two quiet alleys in the heart of Üsküdar, a tailor's shop sits with its doors half open, letting in the golden light of the afternoon. Inside, the air smells faintly of lavender soap and wool. Rolls of fabric, cotton, silk, linen, stand like sentinels against the far wall. Their colors are muted but rich, dusky blue, tea-stained white, a faded green like lichen on stone. The tailor is a thin man with silver at his temples. He works seated on the floor, legs crossed, a bolt of cloth spread before him like a map. His needle moves with practiced grace, up and down, left and back. He does not need to look closely. His fingers know the way. A tunic lies neatly folded nearby. Another hangs from a wooden peg by the door, waiting to be collected. The room is quiet except for the soft snip of scissors and the slow sigh of cloth. An apprentice, barely more than a boy, sits near the window tracing patterns onto parchment. He chews the end of his pencil. A breeze shifts the edge of the page. He holds it flat with one palm. Customers are rare in the heat of afternoon. A man enters quietly, carrying an old vest. He speaks in low tones. The tailor nods, lifts the garment, studies a tear in the seam. He smiles, the sort of work he enjoys. They sit and speak, not of business, but of the weather, of chestnut season, of nothing in particular. The tailor offers tea. The guest declines, but stays a moment longer, looking out at the alley. Outside, shadows grow longer. The tailor returns to his needle. A bird calls once from the roof beam. The apprentice has fallen asleep at the desk, face nestled on folded arms. No one stirs, and the thread moves on. As the light of day tilts toward dusk, the homes of Constantinople begin to glow from within. Stone houses, timber houses, narrow houses with latticed balconies, all begin to breathe again as families return from the market, from the mosque, from their trades. The streets are quieter now. Even the cats are calm, stretched long in the last patch of sun. Inside one modest home near the walls of Adirnakapu, a woman stirs a pot of lentils. The scent is earthy and mild. A curl of steam rises into the wooden rafters, where bunches of thyme hang drying in the shade. Children set the low table with slow hands. A round of bread is placed in the center. A small dish of dates. Cheese wrapped in cloth. The sound of bowls and spoons, placed carefully. No hurry. The father enters, his shoes dusty from the road. He nods a silent greeting, washes his hands at the basin, and dries them on a towel that smells faintly of soap. He does not speak, not yet. They sit. A prayer is murmured, not loud, just a breath shared between them. Then, only the sounds of eating. Slow, deliberate. The scraping of spoon against clay, the quiet drip of the water jug. One child leans back with a sigh. Another breaks a piece of bread in half and places it in front of his brother. No one speaks loudly. Outside, a neighbor tends a small garden. She waters the mint and chard with a copper can. The plants glisten in the evening air. A vendor rolls his cart home. The wheels creak. A candle flickers behind the curtain of a distant window. And from the hills above, the call to prayer rises one last time that day. Low, deep, drawn long across the folds of twilight. When night returns to Constantinople, it does so not with fanfare, but with a long, slow exhale. The sun slips behind the hills. The sky becomes the color of cooled lead. One by one, the street corners fade into shadow, and lanterns bloom like small stars. The lamplighter walks again. His steps are slower this time. The long pole rests on his shoulder, and his pouch of oil clinks with a steady rhythm. He's older now, or perhaps just wearier than before. But his hands still know the motion. He stops beneath each iron lamp, tilts the bowl, lights the wick, watches the flame take hold. At a tea house, men sit in silence, sipping from tiny glasses. The sound of the lighter's footsteps doesn't disturb them. A boy brings another pot from the kitchen. It steams as he sets it down. In the distance, the Bosphorus glints silver again. Moonlight this time. A ferry crosses with its lanterns, casting wide, trembling reflections. The lamplighter continues. Down narrow lanes where the shutters are already closed. Past doorways where children sleep, their breath slow and even. Past hammams, now empty, their stones cooling in the dark. One last lamp waits at the edge of the Galata Bridge. He pauses there. The flame takes easily. The lamp flickers once, then steadies. He watches it a moment longer than usual, then lowers the pole, and with that, the city is lit again. Not brightly, not boldly, just enough to carry her gently into sleep.